Hi Bart.
Hey Georgia.
How are you doing this morning?
Very good. I'm in Thailand and it's beautiful weather and I'm paddling, so what can I say? It's good. I had a bowl of cereal with mango, Thai mango, which I really like. It's very sweet, and some other fruit. That's it. That's my breakfast most mornings actually. Well, I'm losing some hair, so I have to wear both. No, a hat always, just to protect you from the sun, and sunglasses too, because there's just so much sun, and the glare on the water is, even now, it's a lot. So sunglasses and a hat. I just changed. It's called raw elements, and it's good because it doesn't hurt the reef, and it's good because there's no ingredients in there which cause cancer, and I don't get burned, so it works. It depends how long it is, but water is a very essential item, and the other thing is mostly sunscreen or clothing, protection from the sun, because both things are not good. You don't want to get overheated and you don't want to get a sunburn, but the water is essential for anything over, let's say, a couple hours, especially when it's more than half a day. You need water. You cannot live without water, and you feel miserable if you don't drink for a while. So for me, that's the most essential. Oh, it's a tough question. I really like sashimi, but I do like it. The best is the combo. I would like to fish, but I normally don't, because it's a struggle on a small board with a lot of gear, and to also catch a fish and clean it. Most of my expeditions were long distance, and it was far at sea and have to cover a lot of distances. If I would have had a more relaxed expedition where I have all the time in the world, I would do fish, because it's a great way to survive basically. My favorite snack is probably nuts, a mixture of different nuts and some dried fruit in it, because that always works. No matter how you feel, you can always eat that. And often, if you're on a longer crossing or a longer paddle, salty stuff, like crackers with some salt on it. Normally I don't eat those, but you like them, even like chips. You really like them if you're doing a longer effort. It's probably just because you miss the fat and the salt and you start craving for it. Oh, I like left hand. I'm goofy, but to be honest, I always face the wave. So I'm goofy and regular at the same time. So I don't really mind, but I'm better at the left-handers. On my sailing trip, I did some really small, like an hour and a half. And then I got the sense what it would be like to do like long trips, because I had the feeling you could go anywhere on a stand-up paddleboard. He had a nice overview, and but it got me excited. As soon as I got on Maui, I paddled around Maui. That was my first longer trip, and it took me 3 days. So yeah, it was right away a long distance trip. The most important, I think, with any trips, small or short or longer, is preparation. And preparation means know what the weather is going to be like, know what things you have to bring. If it's a longer trip, know if you like the food you're going to bring and you can eat it for many days. Is also preparing what happens if, or think it through, what happens if the weather changes or something else changes. You have to suddenly not go back to your original place where you started, but you have to go somewhere else. So just think through all kind of scenarios. It's together with having the right clothing and the right food is all preparation, and I think that's the most important for any trip. Normally on my board I have a long line all around the board, and I clip on every bag I have. Especially on the first long distance open ocean trip I did, I was very afraid that in the night I would lose a bag, and almost any bag I had was essential. And so I couldn't lose my water maker or the food or the bags with water or anything essential. So yeah, I always clipped them on. The only thing I lost on that trip was a little bag with some clothing, which at the moment I said, oh, I just put it under there, it's not so important. And right away I lost it. And I lost my camera when in the night I turned over. I wanted to make a picture how I was lying in my inflatable bed. And right at that moment a big wave came over and it rolled me over and I lost my camera. But these are the only two items I've ever lost. Since then I got a little clever and prepared better. The toughest part was by far, there's two things. It's 18 hours a day of paddling, which is a long time, especially after a couple days, and only 4 hours sleep. So mostly the last couple hours were tough, but by far the toughest part was the 6th day, where we just had 25 knots of headwind the whole day. And if it wasn't for the current, we wouldn't have moved at all or anything that day. But that was, yeah, the next day we were worth nothing. We didn't move at all. We didn't make the target we wanted to make to get in after the end of 7 days. And so it became an 8th day. Just by a couple hours we didn't make it, so we had to sleep again. But yeah, headwind is always, for stand-up paddlers, is hard, and it's a lot harder if you have a lot of gear on it, and if it's just 18 hours of headwind. And you cannot just go to the side and make a nice, nice campfire and relax. That's what you should do on days like that. But if it's a race, you don't do that and you just keep going the whole time. I always compare it to climbing. You know, climbing in mountains is often also not easy. Climbing in the Mount Everest or any big mountain is, for that matter, is not easy. It's harsh, it's cold, so why would you do it? You have to sleep in a tiny tent in a difficult situation. This is the same, it's a challenge. And I think people are like this or like that, and a lot of us have this in us, more or less, and I have it maybe a little more than some others, but I like the challenge. And I know it's going to be tough, and those are not always pleasant situations, but I know the feeling you get afterwards when you conquer the hard challenge, which is a feeling of, it's like winning a race. You suddenly feel like, wow, I did it. And that feeling is very good. Same as when you do a marathon and you finish the marathon. You don't have to even be first in a marathon, but just finishing it and making it makes you just feel good. I like that part. And it's interesting to see also how you cope with difficult situations and how your body reacts to a long time of paddling. And that's, for me, that's interesting too. Like I said, it's not always easy. And it's same again as a marathon. If you run a marathon, after 3 hours of running a marathon, if you take 4 hours, you're not enjoying it. But there's a lot of parts you enjoy, and the finishing part is just great. Bears. I think sharks, I'm not swimming the whole time. I would be a little more afraid of sharks, but sharks normally don't eat people. It's just coincidence, and it mostly happens in murky water or closer to the night, so they don't attack. Most sharks don't. Bears, when you get close to them, when they have kids around, they could attack. So yes, you do have to be a little more careful with bears. We have to bring bear spray, which is just like a pepper spray, and you have to be pretty close to make it work, so it's scary already. so you don't even want in that situation. But to prevent that situation, there's a few things you have to do. When you enter land, you always look at the trees. If there's bears in the trees, it's mostly the kids. You shouldn't enter, go on land because there's mostly mama around. If it's a sandy beach, which often is the case, you look if there's, if you can see bear footprints. And if you see, it's very easy actually to see, just like the Indians, they looked at the ground and could easily see if somebody was there just half an hour ago or not. But bear prints, you can see how fresh they are. So with bear prints, if they're fresh, don't go on land. And that's what we did. We actually had a couple times where we didn't go on land because you could see that the bear prints were just there. It felt like they were just around the corner, or we were just around the corner when they left, or they saw us before, they heard us before we came, and they left. And there was even a team there who did that. They left, went to the other side of the river, a little further away, and the next day, they put up the tent, slept really well for 4 hours, and the next morning they woke up and they saw a lot of bear prints around their tent, just walking around for a couple of times, smelling and sniffing out, but nothing else happened, so yeah. But actually what most people don't realize, for me, by far the most dangerous part of paddling open ocean and in less of a way on rivers is losing your board. And even on rivers, like it has happened the last couple of years in Hood River and other places in the US, where people lost their lives because they lost their board. And open ocean, I've been sailing, and for us to be attached to the boat was the most important thing. So, because once you lose the boat, it's very hard for other people to find you if they notice at all that you lose the boat, if you jump from board or fall off your boat. But on a board, you're just by yourself. I do a lot by myself, so I cannot lose the board. I often use actually 2 leashes, just in case one breaks. I have the other one as a backup, because at night it's even hard to find your board, and during the day you don't want to lose the risk that the board just travels with the wind and the waves a little faster than you can swim, which is not often the case, but still, that's for me, that's the most scary part, and I just do everything to prevent that. Torheide was one, and there has been a windsurfer a long time ago, and he inspired me to do crossings. Even as a kid, at 12-year-old, I was already thinking about doing crossings. And his name is Arnaud de Rosnay. He actually died during a crossing between Taiwan and China. And which was political, very dangerous back then. There was basically a war between those countries. And I think it was 80, 85, 86, somewhere there. So he's never found back, but it still inspired me to do crossings by myself. And the Marquesas crossing, I'm a little faster than you are.
Come on, buddy, come on.
The Marquesas crossing inspired me also by Torheide, because he wrote his first book there. And he's a very interesting person because he changed a lot of things in the world. For instance, the UN made the first law about oil dumpings at sea. That was the first environmental law, international law, and it was basically because of him, because one of his crossings he saw a lot of oil dumped in the Atlantic, and he wrote right away to the UN, and they made a law which actually was implemented in all the worldwide. And he wrote a book about the people coming from South America to the Pacific Islands, and he was trying to prove that it was possible, not that it happened, but that it was possible to even come from South America. Later it was proven that many came from New Zealand and even from China. Back then he found evidence that there were similar artifacts found in South America as in the Marquesas, and he was convinced that they would, would be likely that they came by boat or by canoe. Just to prove that he did it with a raft. And this whole theory only happened in the Marquesas while he was living in nature for 1 year. And he went to the Marquesas because he wanted to find a place which was so far away from civilization that you could live there without meeting people or being helped by civilization, and just living back in nature. To really be good at this, you have to study a lot, know a lot about the stars. And I know a little bit about the stars, and I know enough about navigation. But I wouldn't find my way if you would dump me in the middle of the Pacific. I wouldn't find my way back. Other than that, I know a rough sense of direction, and I will get somewhere in South America, but maybe not the right place. But in a way, I use the stars a lot when I pedal at night in places where you don't see land anymore. I use my compass, check out stars, and then follow the stars, because it's not nice to use a light at night when you pedal. It reflects the whole time, so it's way nicer to pedal in the dark, and it's actually never really dark. If there's just a little bit of moon, it's already pretty, you can see everything. And so I just follow the stars at night, and every now and then I check my GPS or my compass if I'm still going the right way. So it's a combination of both. I probably lost like 5 kilos on the expedition, the most, which is pretty, it's a lot for such a short time. Losing 5 kilos in, let's say, 10 or 12 days, or even in a week, it's a lot.
Which one was that?
I think the first crossing I did, I lost the most. The Big Island to Kauai, Hawaiian crossing, which is 5 days. I was seasick a lot. I pedaled a lot, and well, I brought enough food, but it's hard to get all the food intake in while you're at sea in difficult situations. My favorite starboard to use is 14-foot touring, because you can basically travel anywhere in any condition. You can bring a lot of gear. It's stable enough to bring gear, and it's fast enough because it has the shape of a raceboard. And of course I like my waveboard 8/28, and I do like my favorite raceboard, Sprint 21.5, 14 by 21.5, just because it's stable and fast.